in our previous lecture we already studied the basic introduction to the sericulture industry, then silk moths, their classification, types of different types of silk moths we already studied on the with the help of their diagrams. Characteristic features we already studied in our previous lecture. Now in this lecture today we're going to learn about the mulberry silk moth, that is Bombyx mori. So this Bombyx mori, it produces the best quality silk. Okay, so the silk is produced by a large number of insects, no doubt, that we already discussed in our previous lecture, like Muga silk is there, Ere silk is there, Tassar silk is there, right? So different varieties of insect produces different types of silk that we already studied in our previous lecture. But out of which the silk produced by mulberry silk moth is best quality, one of the best quality silk, right? So what is the sericulture? Sericulture is nothing but a rearing, developing and looking after of the silk insect is termed as a sericulture. No doubt this business can be done, can be carried by any person who is literate, who is maybe physically fit or not. But this business again requires the skill, right? So with a very little amount of money, one can start in a small space. Okay, so this business again requires the what we can say, it requires efforts, it requires scientific skill, scientific knowledge for the rearing and development of the cocoon, right? Now let's move ahead. These are nothing but in a diagram mulberry leaves on which this mulberry silk moth, Bombyx mori moth, they are feeding, right? So let's move ahead and see what is the life cycle of silk moth. So the life cycle of silk moth I have shown here. You can see the male, which is smaller and tender, whereas adult female large, stout. This is the mulberry leaves on which eggs are laid, right? This is the final instar larva called as a caterpillar, mature caterpillar. Dorsal horn, number of spiracles are also there, legs are there. This is the head portion, thoracic legs, abdominal legs you can see. Okay, and here abdominal legs you can see, and here is the cocoon, and inside the cocoon there is a developing chrysalis, means a pupa. Okay, now this all things, this all parts we are going to study in detail. Okay, now the moth Bombyx mori are pale cream ashy white in color. Here in this diagram, as it is a black and white picture, so you cannot see the color exactly, but in our previous lecture I already shown you that. Let me show you this is the Bombyx mori. It is pale cream ashy white in color. You can easily see that, right? Now they are about 2.5 to 3 centimeter long and robust, means a strong, stout, covered with small hairs. The body is well divided into head, thorax, abdomen. Here in this picture you can easily see head, thorax and abdomen. 2 pairs of wings are there, 3 pairs of legs. The wingspan is measured about 4 to 6 centimeter. So what do you mean by wingspan? When wings are fully spreaded, they measure from their broader margin to broader margin, right? From margin to margin. This wingspan is measures about 4 to 6 centimeter. Okay, so their wingspan, as it is small, so and body is quite bulky, right? So they are weak flyers. They cannot fly for long. Okay. So the wings are well ornamented with the dark and faint brown bands. You can see here the bands on the wings. So the abdomen is covered with the scales and is highly extended in females, whereas narrow, slender, cylindrical in males. Okay. Abdomen is highly extended in case of a female as compared to male. You can see here in this diagram. So they met only few hours after their birth. Once they hatch out from the once they hatch out from the once they hatch out from the pupa, so within few hours they start mating, and the mating is last for a few hours, right? And after mating, the females start laying eggs. Now the sexes, they are separate, means the male and females, they are separate. Sexual dimorphism is clearly visible, and the males are smaller and tender, whereas the females are bigger and stouter, that we already studied, right? Now the female lifespan of the female is slightly larger as compared to male. Males usually die immediately after copulation or during copulation, and the females, as they are stronger, stouter than the male, and they have a specific responsibility of egg laying, so their lifespan is little more, that is 2 to 3 days. Okay, but during this their adult lifespan, both male and females, they do not feed. Okay, so they are non-feeding stages. So once copulated, the female can lay eggs, and all fertilized eggs she lays, and there is no need for the further copulation. Only once in their life they copulate, and within that they used to lay numerous eggs. You can see here 350 or 550 eggs can be laid by a female. So they have enormous capacity of egg laying. These eggs, they are minute, rounded, and laid in the cluster on the surface of the leaves. Okay, so here in this picture you can see small rounded eggs laid on the plant leaves in the form of a group or a cluster. So these eggs are well protected by means of gelatinous glue, which makes them to stick with a substratum. So whatever eggs they are laid, they are not just dry, they are wet and moistened with the gelatinous glue, which used to help them for attaching with the substratum. And the newly laid eggs can be recognized by means of their pale yellow or cream colored. So if the eggs, they are newly laid, they are appears as an pale yellow or cream colored. Okay, and soon after they become dry. When comes in contact with the air, they become dry and slightly hardened, and their color also changes from pale yellow to dark brown or black also. Okay, so change in color from pale yellow to dark brown or black, this is an indication that the eggs are fertilized, and you can see they are ready for incubation. So the viability of the eggs depend upon the duration of a copulation and the number of eggs laid by the female. So how long is the copulation, and how what is the health of the female, as well as how many eggs are laid by the female, is again affected by the, or is again going to influence the quality of eggs. So in the same way, the number of eggs laid depend upon the health of the female moth. Okay, number of eggs laid is again depend on the health of the female moth. Now tell me, female and male, adult male and female, they are feeding stages. Are they going to feed anymore in their life? No, they are the non-feeding stages. So ultimately the quality of the egg laid is depend on what? If the adult is non-feeding stage, then the quality of egg laid or quality of the cocoon is depend on what? It is totally depend on the health of a larva, right? So if the larvae, they are fed well on the mulberry leaves, means they are fed well on the healthy leaves, then the quality of the cocoon will be improved, right? Okay, so the eggs are very susceptible to temperature, light, and humidity. In optimum temperature, that is near about 65 degree Fahrenheit to 75 degree, they hatch within a period of 7 to 10 days, again provided with well ventilation and in a open sandy shades. Okay, otherwise the period of hatching will be increased. If the temperature is not optimum, if the ventilation is not proper, so hatching period can be prolonged. Okay, so this is again totally depend on environmental conditions as well as the humidity provided to them. Even apart from this, there are some genetic reasons which also going to affect the hatching period. Say if a moth is having only one generation per year, so in that case the incubation period is also going to be prolonged. Okay, so the newly emerged larva, when egg incubation is over and the young one is ready to come out, so that first instar larva is said to be newly emerged larva. Okay, say like this. Here is the small egg which hatch out into a small larva. Okay, which is minute, slender, tender, means very delicate, pale yellow or cream colored with a dark brown head. Here in this diagram you cannot see, but here in the adult you can see the dark portion of the head, right? Now, and the larvae, silk moth larvae, they shows biting and chewing type of mouth parts. They migrate here and there in search of the food, and they are voracious feeders, right? So what do you mean by voracious feeder? Voracious feeder means the animal which keep on eating continuously. They have no stop in their eating. There should not be any pause in the eating. So such an animal who is keep on eating continuously is said to be the voracious feeder. So they grow rapidly in size and eat continuously, right? A break in the food supply directly means the death of the larvae as well as a loss in the production of the silk. If you give them less quality or less quantity of the leaves, so ultimately the larval health will be affected, and that ultimately result in affected quality of the cocoon, right? So affected quality of the cocoon. So cocoons will be very poor like this, right? So it is important what is the food, what is the quality of a food given to them. So what it means? It means healthier the larvae, maximum is the output. If your larvae is quite healthy, then you will get good quality cocoon. If the larval health is not up to the mark, then you will get very poor quality of the cocoon, right? So the newly hatched larva that measures about, here you can see it is very small. So that measures about 3 mm in size, whereas the fully grown 5th instar larva is measured about how much? 6 to 7 centimeter in size. So this larvae grows from this to here. Okay. Every larva is called as a larval span is called as an instar. Now here the stages are given 1, 2, 3, 4. It doesn't mean that one, first, second, third, fourth instar it is. So this first larva is said to be first instar. When it molt, here is the molting period, right? Means here it going to shed its old cuticle, right? And it enter into second instar. So this is first instar, second instar, followed by first molt, right? This is second instar, third instar, fourth instar, and fifth instar larva. So this fifth instar larva is dark and dull colored and thick like the thumb. The body is very well segmented and marked with the beautiful spots you can see here. Okay, like other Lepidoptera, it also bears a pseudolegs and that moves in search of the leaves. Okay. All right. Now, depending upon the lifespan of the, or you can say depending upon the instar of the larva, whether it is a first instar larva or whether it is a fifth instar larva, the food quality of the leaves is again going to change. Means what? This first instar larva, as it is a very small, fleshy, tender, so it feeds on the young tender leaves. And this one, the last instar larva, as it is, the you can say strong, stout, big sized. So it used to feed on any kind of leaves like fleshy leaves, tender leaves, as well as old leaves. Okay. Now the total larval period varies according to the climatic conditions. What climatic conditions are there which affect the larval period? Like humidity, temperature, photo period. Okay, photo period means what? Photo period means the amount of sunlight per the amount of day length. Okay, so sunny days, or whether it is very short sunny days, that again going to have impact on the larval life. So ultimately the in a favorable condition, entire life cycle is completed in 21 to 35 days. Okay, for their full development. And four molt, uh, where are the four molt? Here, 1, 2, 3 and 4 molt, and 5 larval instar, 1 second instar, third instar, fourth instar and fifth instar. For completing all this, they took near about 21 to 35 days for their complete development. Okay, and each larva has, here is the old cuticle. Now here in this case you can see the larval cuticle or larval skin is going to be a limiting factor for its growth. So after attaining a particular size, it has to shed its old cuticle, right? This shedding of the old cuticle is called as a molt, and this molting takes place after every 6 to 7 days. So first instar larva, after 6 to 7 days, it's going to shed its old cuticle. Again, it enters into second instar larva. Again, after 6 to 7 days, it sheds its old cuticle. So second molting period. Then again, third molting period is there. Fourth molting period, and it result into fifth instar larva. Right now, the last instar larva that possess pair of well developed salivary gland. This one, it bears a pair of a very well developed salivary gland and the lateral side on the lateral side of the body. Okay, which is present inside the mouth. Okay, so a fully formed fifth instar larva undergoes some physiological changes and it becomes restless, and it is done due to certain kind of intrinsic hormone released inside its body. Now the larva means the last instar, this one, fifth instar larva, stop feeding and it migrates on the dry side. Okay, and it preferably find out dark shady places and particularly corners or the points which are at the angles, right? So it moves its head in a wriggling position and it constantly and rapidly rotates its head at its body axis and in the timeline. Meanwhile, while rotating its head around the body axis, what happened? The saliva comes out through a small pores which is known as a spinnorators. Okay, so inside its a mouth in the uh, hypopharynx, there is a one tube-like structure which contains salivary secretion from both the salivary glands. That tube-like structure opens on the proboscis or mouth. It is called as a spinnorators, and through the spinnorators, the salivary secretion of this larva is going to spin around its body. Okay, spin around its body. And what is the wriggling movement of this head, or how what is, you can say, the speed of wriggling, speed of the spinning head around its body axis is about 1 minute, one spinning, complete spinning per second, means 60 times it rotate its body around a body axis. Okay, 60 times per minute it rotates its body around its body axis. Okay, so this is going to be, means the spinning action is going to be last for about 2 to 3 days. Meanwhile, this larva do not feed, it do not take a rest, it doesn't think like no, I'm very tired now, I did a lot of work and now I want to take a rest. It never happened like this, right? Okay, so without taking rest, without feeding, without any break, this larva work for about 2 to 3 days, and while it spin cocoon, it spin or it release that salivary secretion around its body. And when that salivary secretion, it comes in contact with the air, it becomes dry and it forms a cocoon. Okay. The cocoon means layers of the cocoon are very well demarcated on the posterior side, but it is slightly less organized on the anterior portion. Okay. And now this saliva, it's a saliva contains, or you can say silk fiber contains two main things, fibroin and a sericin. Okay, fibroin, which is a fibrous part, sericin, which is a proteinous part. This fibroin and sericin is a basic composition of the silk. Okay, now in a so the total length of the thread which is spun by the larva varies from 1000 meter to 1500 meters, right? So whatever cocoon is there, if it is unspun or it is reeled, so after reeling, the length of the thread, silk thread recovered from this cocoon is measures about 1000 meter, or sometimes if it is a very healthy cocoon, 100 and means 1500 meters it can be measure in a length, and it weighs about 0.3 to 0.5 grams. Okay, 0.3 to 0.5 grams. So the color of the cocoon again depend on many species of the moth. So species wise, the moth as the species of the moth is going to change, the color of the cocoon is going to change. Even the leaf they are fed with is also going to have influence on the color of the cocoon. So it ranges from pure white, means what? The color of the cocoon. It ranges from pure white, sometimes it is creamy, it is pale yellow or dirty white, and even dirty yellow, right? So the thickness of the thread also depend upon the species of the moth. Okay. Thus, the total cocoon formation takes about 3 to 4 days, and then the larva is changed into a pupa. So the pupal period ranges from 6 to 12 days. So this is after this spinning of the cocoon, inside which larva is going to molt further. It's going to enter into next developmental stage, that is the pupa. Let's go back here. The pupa. Chrysalis means it's a pupa. Okay. So this is what the cocoon. Outermost is the cocoon, inside which this larva is going to molt further into a pupa, and it takes about 6 to 12 days to complete its pupal life, after which it going to break open this cocoon and the adult comes out. Okay. So while coming out of the cocoon, this adult produces certain alkaline fluid. Okay, the adult means not this one, the young one or imago, which is present inside the cocoon, who is ready to hatch, ready to come out. This is going to release some kind of alkaline fluid which soften the threads, and then the mouth pushed out of the cocoon. Okay, so suppose at this point, if the alkaline fluid is released by this imago, young one, okay, and that will going to soften the cocoon at this portion. So after that, head of the adult is going to exert some kind of a pressure on it, so it get break open and then adult comes out, right? So this is all about the life cycle of the silk